machine that we're all connected to, right? The internet, which is this sort of oceanic sort of place, right? Where we're all kind of drops in the ocean. We're all together in this same single ocean, but there's been a lot of, I think, emotional turbulence, deception, madness, and expansion all happening at the same time. And I think we should keep that in mind right now as well with 3i Atlas. We should keep that in mind as we go into this year. And I think we need to be like both open-minded and cautious about what we believe. That's the way to, I think, approach these times, and even 3i Atlas, because there are all sorts of weird theories that aren't really or necessarily justified by the evidence we have about what 3i Atlas is, as you know very well, Stefan. So we need to be, I think, like walking that tightrope between believing that other things are possible versus not getting sucked into things that actually aren't real.
Yeah, and I also consider how 3i Atlas has really been resonating with artificial intelligence for some reason, because of all the topics, I mean, maybe it's just partially my algorithm, but of all the topics, the amount of AI videos made on 3i Atlas is insane. And now there's even, as I mentioned just before, there is a channel that is impersonating Professor Avi Loeb, and they took like his Dr. Avi Loeb, and it's a deep fake, and it's of him in his office, and it looks just like him basically, though it's like plasticky, but it already has like 20,000 subs, and because he's been talking about all these anomalies and kind of at this point reaching for new anomalies, it's been like perfect fodder for this channel to just go ahead and create ridiculous things and then put a deep fake of him to say it, and people are gobbling it up. And some people see it, but a lot of people don't. So there's this weird resonance with like 3i Atlas and artificial intelligence, and it just seems to be resonating very strongly with the main themes right now. Like space travel and our desire to kind of go interplanetary, consciousness and spirituality, the UAP and disclosure phenomenon, you could say, artificial intelligence, technology, and then, I mean, we had this NASA live stream, which released these photos that were really underwhelming. And no, I mean, I didn't expect them to be good, but it's crazy how we have all these amateur astronomers around the world taking amazing photos of 3i Atlas, and then NASA can't get anything good, and they have Hubble, and the Hubble photo is not that good. So, and the James Webb photo is like super blurry, and yeah, there's like, okay, it's a fast moving target, and you know, Hubble or James Webb is meant to look at something in the distance and take tons of snapshots over a long periods of times to resolve the image and stack and all this stuff. But it's just like, I feel like we should have gotten something at least a little better from NASA. So a lot of people think there's a cover up there, and their live stream was really quite bizarre in some aspects. And what was interesting about that is it occurred right on the second opposition between Mercury and Uranus. And we have the third one coming up. So the first one's at the perihelion, the 29th. Then we have this second one, and we have the third one coming up on December 10th. So I feel like something big's coming in December. What can you kind of, how can you guide us with maybe getting a glimpse into that based off of the astrology of the Mercury-Uranus alignment? Because it's in resonance with 3i Atlas, apparently.
Yeah, you're right. Well, Mercury was in an opposition to Uranus at the perihelion of 3i Atlas. Now, a Mercury-Uranus opposition is going to bring surprising, unexpected information to mind and encounters with things that weren't expected, like new sort of quick, rapid shifts in consciousness and belief and so forth. And it's basically baked into the nature of 3i Atlas. In traditional astrology, astrologers would be really interested in the chart of a comet at its perihelion. That was said to be the most significant moment of a comet's life that kind of contained and described its essence. And so with 3i Atlas, we have Mercury, Uranus really like baked in to the meaning of this thing and what it's doing. And it's exactly right. I think it's a really good demonstration of how astrology works in this kind of more unusual form of astrology where we're trying to analyze an interstellar comet rather than one of the planets. But Mercury, Uranus as a dynamic, the encounter, the mind expanding, surprising encounter of something different that changes what we know. That's at its essence, essentially. And you're right to say that it was baked in because the first opposition comes on the 29th of October, as you say, at the perihelion. And then we had the second one, which coincided with that NASA live stream, which you talked about. And that was it was a change in direction. It was a surprising kind of twist. We were expecting to get more information about 3i Atlas. We were expecting to get better images, but we didn't. We didn't get what we were promised. There was a surprising change in direction there in terms of where our consciousness was heading. And as you say, we've got a third one coming up in December. Now, given that both of these two oppositions have been significant in the life of 3i Atlas, the third one comes on December the 10th. So maybe we get another change in direction or some new information. Maybe things clear up somehow slightly. Or at least we get more. Now, I don't know whether that will be from NASA, but I'll be paying attention to that date and around that time for new information to come out. But the other thing to bear in mind, as we were saying earlier, is, again, keep in mind, Neptune is making its last transit through the very last degrees of Pisces right now. This is the very sort of culmination of this Neptune in Pisces transit that's lasted 14, 15 years. So I think we've got to be very careful about what we believe right now, and I would not necessarily be trusting what NASA says about this. Now, people have a lot of reasons for that, and history is one of them. But just the nature of the times just tells us that we should be really cautious about what we believe and what narratives we listen to. And you've talked extensively about how that didn't really make sense, right? What came out at that live stream.
Yeah, the word that keeps popping into my head every time I think of that NASA live stream, and I'm not saying this is what I believe, but it just continuously has been popping in my head now for weeks, is not live stream, but live stream. So, I mean, it's just kind of crazy that was a very big event for this whole 3i Atlas story because of the backstory, which was, okay, we have this build up and certain people are talking about how these images are going to be the highest quality look we get at 3i Atlas as it gets close to Mars. That'll help us resolve its nucleus and what it actually is. So for months, people are banging the drum. They're making, they're building up a story. And then we get this shutdown right before that. And NASA's doing other critical tasks and duties, but they can't seem to release this image or images. And they even were like responding to Kardashians, like Kim Kardashian. But, it's just a whole bunch of silly stuff. And then we finally get this live stream. They make it a big event. It's like, why did you make this a big event? It felt like they lost the plot. And I think it's really interesting too when you add in the fact that we had this huge increase in solar activity right as 3i Atlas performed a superior conjunction with the sun as viewed from Earth. That was the 21st of October. That was a key date I was watching since late July because I identified that it did that perfect alignment and then it did perihelion. We had all these solar flares launched coronal mass ejections basically out to 3i Atlas and Venus, which it was approaching close to at that time. And then in addition to that, it then does its perihelion, continues on, and it's now energized. So it also has like that solar energized factor to it, which I feel like is important to incorporate into this analysis. Then you have the live stream. Then we have this third transit coming up on the 10th of December, roughly. And then it has this closest approach to the sun. So there's just so many perfect alignments with 3i Atlas. The superior conjunction, the perihelion being energized by the sun, and then the Uranus Mercury opposition being in resonance with it, its closest approach to the sun being right next to solstice, and then it passing super close to Jupiter, already passed super close to Mars. It's just like such a crazy coincidence, or coincidences one after another. The only thing I can really pitch out there as for what could occur on the 10th maybe would be updated photos of 3i Atlas from Hubble. Because if they were smart, they took them back in July, I think it's July 23rd, that NASA used Hubble to get some photos of 3i Atlas. They would also want to get photos of 3i Atlas following its perihelion on the other side. And now we have good alignment again. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe that's what we get, is they drop these new Hubble images, considering that 3i Atlas right now is also dimming pretty significantly, pretty quickly. Like the tail that it formed after perihelion is now starting to fade. So if they want to get some good data on it with Hubble, they need to act soon. And it's December 1st now. It's December 2nd where you are. So it's like time is running out. So I can see that being a thing that that happens, that resonates with that. But I can see it also being something a little bit crazier than that.
It's really impossible to say. All we can say for sure is that that moment in time will have the quality of new information coming to light. Given the pattern that it's previously had to do with 3i Atlas, we can maybe speculate that it will have to do with 3i Atlas, but just generally in our lives, out in the world in general, that's the quality of that moment. So, it could well be that we see something like that. Mercury, Uranus is a combination that can have to do with mental inspiration or uplifting or sort of enlightenment, that kind of thing. So given that the live stream took place with, I think it was Mercury was retrograde at the time, that's not really a time when you're going to get the kind of inspiration you're looking for.
It was retrograde Cazimi with the new moon. So it was a special, like an ultra special alignment that day.
Right, yeah. The third and final one, it might tell us more. But there's another alignment that I think looks really interesting that may also have to do with 3i Atlas coming in January. And this is something we talked about a little bit earlier, but there is a triple conjunction of the Sun, Venus, and Mars coming in tropical Capricorn, opposing Jupiter in early January. And I have a feeling that might have something to do with either 3i Atlas itself or with disclosure or the UFO phenomenon, those kind of things. It's happening in a particular place of the zodiac that makes me think something like that could be coming. And it's a really incredible alignment coming up. And I think you've been tracking that for a while as well, right?
Yeah, maybe there's a way to pull it up on screen. So I'll turn myself off really quick and I'll share my screen so everyone can see this. But yeah, just here is the alignment. This is the 9th of January is when it looks to be most precise. We're using solar system scope here. And we see that Jupiter is in its opposition. And in fact, we had the closest approach of Jupiter to the Earth, I think back in 2020 or 2021, because they go through these sequences where the opposition's close to Earth and it's further away. And so that was one of the closest ones of the 21st century a few years ago. So this is still going to be fairly close in its opposition, but not as close as it could be. But it's rare to get Jupiter in an alignment like this. And then we get these sort of Earth, Venus, Mars sequences every 2,336 days, or effectively every 6.6 years. And Mercury sometimes participates and sometimes it doesn't. And they really seem to be significant when you have an outer planet in alignment with it. So if I go back, let's just look at the sky position really quick. This is Sagittarius right there. This is the constellation of Capricorn. This is all true sky, actual constellations. And if we zoom here, we see that Earth and Jupiter are in Gemini from a heliocentric. Let me go back to 93. What's the specific date of the Uranus-Neptune opposition in 93?
Well, there were actually
That's right,
it
there's
was
multiple.
Uranus-Neptune conjunctions. There were 3 conjunctions of Uranus and Neptune in 1993. 2nd of February was the first, then 20th of August, and then 24th of October. So there were 3 of them.
Okay, here's a good one right there. So this is pretty much in line with it, especially if we
94. That looks like it's 93.
Yeah. So from a heliocentric though, it's still pretty close. But if we want that specific Mars Venus alignment, they pretty much line up there in 94. But the actual 93 one is when they're, geocentrically precise, as you're talking about somewhere. You said, what did you say in 93 again? You said February?
2nd of February was the first of the 3.
Oh, the first of the 3. Yeah. So, we're going forward in time.
There's a murmur in the circuits, there's a trembling in the scroll, where the crown of King Street flickers like a memory in the soul. Letters rain like coded warnings, doves and ravens share the sky. What is truth and what is omen, what is rumor dressed as why? We walk the line, the red line, between waking and the tale, between the world of deeds and shadows, between the signal and the veil. Look twice for the world they give you. Look twice for the world that's yours. Look thrice for the inner kingdom where no puppet pulls the doors. For every king has a higher kingdom, every queen has a deeper throne. We cross the king's red line together, never wandering alone. Agents step from velvet curtains, some with mirrors, some with masks. Some recite forgotten legends, some repeat unfinished tasks. Names appear like constellations on the star map of the day, but the meaning's in the story, not the actors in the play. Eightfold spiral